My experience of you is fuck me. Okay, there's two sides to this. What are we talking to here? There's a saying in the woo-woo world, in the spiritual world, in the personal development world. My experience of you is. Now, firstly, I want to make light of that. And secondly, I actually want to speak to the value in that as well, because there is value in that. There is value in my experience of you is. But first, let's go. Let me cut it back. We live in a world where we are so fucking politically correct. The PC culture in the world we live in, if we offend someone, we are distressed and we are disorientated. One of the reasons we say my experience of you is because we are scared. We are trying to preface what we are about to say, which is some form of a truth bomb or some form of information that's going to possibly offend that person, but also possibly benefit them. And so we say it's fucking a given that you're saying it, you're telling that person what you're thinking and feeling about them. It's a given that it's your experience of them. And we pre-frame all of this to make ourselves feel better. Because we don't want to get caught off guard. We don't want that person to be reactive to us and get offended, or maybe they're going to be hypersensitive. Now, of course, if you're addressing someone and you're being malicious and your intention is to hurt them or ridicule them, well, that's on you. You're the one that probably needs to look at your stuff, and that's not really fair. But to preface everything we want to say to someone with my experience of you is, just say it, just own it, just be in it. From a masculine energetic, be direct, be assertive, be certain, be clear. Process your charge if you have a charge with them, so you're not projecting and vomiting on them. Do that work yourself. Take responsibility for the shit that's inside of you, because yes, your perception of them is something within you as well. Yes, they may be acting misaligned, and how you react to that, the intensity of that, is you. That's your perception. And that's informed by your history, your values, your interpretation of things, your models of reality, your ability to have a higher threshold for, how's this person behaving and how's it affecting me? Now, the other side to my experience of you is actually really beautiful. And it's an invitation and an opening. And that is, my experience of you is. And now what you're doing, you're building common ground and you're sharing and you're asking permission. Because prior to that, you would say, hey, I want to share something with you, about my experience of you. Is that okay? And sometimes if people are in a sensitive place and the subject matter is sensitive, then guess what? That can be a really honest, empowering statement to make. And it bonds you and it puts you in this field. Now you're both in the field of, what is this person expressing and how can I receive? And as you're expressing, you can then later also receive and let them express. And so it can be a beautiful bonding statement. My experience of you is. But what I've found in the spiritual community is we overuse that term in order to not offend. And quite frankly, sometimes we just have to not offend on purpose, but being offended or offending someone is going to be a byproduct of speaking, communicating, expressing our fucking truth. Now, why is your truth important? Well, it's probably not very important to many people, but it's important to you. And the more we can practice speaking and communicating our truth and not being attached to what that outcome looks like, to how it has to be received, to the perfection in the receiving or the message itself. And we don't have to preface it by my experience of you is, unless of course you're attempting to bond. But if you're coming from that hypersensitive place where you don't want to offend someone and don't want to get into that, you're coming from that place of PC culture, fuck that. We are creating such a hypersensitive society. Our interactions are so fake and false. They are so not real. They are not vulnerable. They are calculated, orchestrated. Our intention is not to necessarily speak our truth and bond from a more genuine, authentic place. Our intention is to not offend others, is to be seen in a particular way, is to wear the masks upon the masks so we don't offend others, so that we are elevated in our community, in our micro community, within the spiritual community? What about just being honest and truthful? Now, hey, my hands up. I struggle with this sometimes as well. At times, I will preface something to not offend someone. My intention is to not offend anyone. But sometimes I'll catch myself thinking more about what are they thinking or what are they going to feel about me or think about me if I say this thing. So I have to manipulate myself or orchestrate the situation to make the minimum damage. And that's like, for me, I see that as this diplomatic approach, and diplomacy has a place. But we're overusing diplomacy. We're overusing this hypersensitive approach to communicating. We're creating weakness. We're not creating resilience. And resilience in relationship is so important. Resilience in the world, in the constitution, in the nervous system, in the physiology, in the psychology, in the emotional being, in the spiritual being is so necessary. We are here today. We have evolved today because of our resilience. Not necessarily holding back and being soft. This is the time not to be hard and rigid, but to be direct and clear in a healthy way, not with an intention to hurt someone. Because now that's unhealthy shadow masculine behavior. Our intention is to be direct, clear, open-hearted, certain in what we're saying, and not carrying an intention to be malicious and hurt someone. My experience of you is, where the fuck is that coming from? Ask yourself. Because I've done that before. I've been in that place where I've shared my experience of you is to not offend the person, and the message that I really wanted to say, what came out became distorted, manipulated, not fake, but just not grounded. It was stuttering because my focus was on how they're going to think, what are they going to think about me? And it's not that I'm asking you to not care about what others think about you, because that's going against your basic biology and survival function about in-group, out-group mentality. Your nervous system wants to be in the in-group. But can you develop enough self-confidence, enough self-honor and self-love that you can speak your truth and own it? And if you are going to use that term, my experience of you is, then maybe it's coming from a place of, yeah, this person's a little sensitive and I care for their well-being. And maybe it's not that they're sensitive, maybe they're just really in a hurtful place at the moment, and this is going to build a bridge to connection and communication where I can share something with them that actually may help them. My experience of you is. Power and blessings to you guys. I'll see you soon.